Hi guys, Flattmeister here. I've got a story that is going to piss you off. It pissed me off. It's really fucked me off. So, game writer resigns after social justice warriors crucify him for conservative opinions. Like I've said in previous videos, press, like SJWs, are politicised and created such divisions between people. Or if you have conservative opinions, oh, you're an alt-right, you're a Nazi, you're a garbage human, and if you don't toe the progressive line, you're either with us or against us. That's the social justice way.
Where is the justice?
There's no justice in this world. Casey Hollingshead is a writer that he was working on content for the upcoming role-playing game Pillars of Eternity 2, which is made by Obsidian. He was outed by members of the social justice community GamerGhazi. I've heard this name going around, and apparently it's some kind of Anti-GamerGate. It's like a sort of a polar opposite. So yeah, the Anti-GamerGate, this community on Reddit, who managed to track down his posts to a forum called RPG Codex. They catalogued his posts, much of which they considered offensive in content. So I mean, GamerGhazi is like pretty much like Poll, except Poll does good work, especially with Antifa and all that shit that's going on. But here's the thing, right? Casey Hollingshead posting under the name Sir, so S-S-E-R. So he's not commenting under his professional name, which is what a lot of these social justice game developers and Marvel comic book writers, yeah, they just openly on their Twitter bio, oh yeah, I work at Marvel, or I work at DC, and then they go on a tirade of,
I hate white people.
So Casey Hollingshead, posting under the name Sir, remarked that feminist game critic Anita Sarkeesian was a huckster, and accused her of feigning interest in video games to push her progressive ideology, which is true. And huckster is like one of the most sort of tamest things you could insult that you could aim at Anita's way. I called her a disgusting and despicable person based on previous things that she's done to other people, inciting mobs against journalists. He also called Zoe Quinn, the game developer whose undisclosed relationships with game journalists served as the catalyst for GamerGate, and called her a sociopath. Especially with the launch of her book now out. Ugh. From what I've heard, there's a lot of lies in that book. A lot of, well, not even half truths really. A lot of lies. Hollingshead was highly critical of social justice warriors in the video game industry, lambasting their efforts to shoehorn progressive storylines and characters into gaming. And here's his quote. "Basic fact is that some people can't handle women in video games. Literally speaking," he wrote in one post. "They can't handle them being shot, can't handle them being roughed up, can't handle them being sexual, can't handle them being liberal, can't handle them being conservative, can't handle them being criticised." Is very much true. I mean, Anita Sarkeesian complained about Destiny, that a female character would sit like a princess, sort of sit with the legs crossed to the side. So what is she was saying? What would she prefer, a female soldier that you'd play as manspread? But then she'd go, "Ooh, but then you can turn the camera around to look up the female character's skirt," or whatever. Oh God, you can't win with these people.
I don't believe you people.
Huh. What do you mean, you people?
Professor Jordan Peterson, the postmodernists they call them, the cultural Marxists, criticising the concept of objectification. Hollingshead described the so-called critique of female characters in video games as a double helix of critique of feminine. Fuck me. Hollingshead described the so-called critique of female characters in video games as a double helix of hypocritical bullshit that you never see applied to male characters. I mean, even throughout the entirety of GamerGate's beginnings, humble beginnings. People have rebutted these, and they've pointed out, how come you never, these very things that you criticise that these female characters go through, or male characters go through them as well, but you're not saying anything. You're pretty much silent. The writer also stated that while most Muslims are unlikely to be terrorists, a terrorist attack committed in Europe would likely be committed by a Muslim extremist. And his statement, while seemingly offensive on the surface, is backed up by data. So he's basically saying that most terrorism committed in Europe is by Islamic extremists, or ISIS. So what are these people? Is GamerGhazi defending ISIS? Are they defending terrorists? Not saying all Muslims are terrorists. Well, that's what the writer said. He's not saying that all Muslims are terrorists. Oh, God. You can't... It's a fucking religion. How come Islam, they want it to be a protected religion, protected from criticism? But old Christianity, you can bash the fuck out of that. Yeah. Bash the hell out of Christianity. It's anti-LGBT, didn't you know? Christianity. They want to gas, they want to lock you up and throw away the key. They want to zap the gayness out of you. But those ISIS terrorist extremists, those terrorists, throwing off the roof. What's the worst that can happen to gay people, gays and lesbians? Social justice activists on GamerGhazi, offended by his opinions, took issue with a joke he made about a bad video game. Hollingshead wrote, "The amount of level ups in this storyline is just insane. It's like a poker game where all the chips are on the table, but people keep piling their car keys and watches, and soon enough it's like fucking bonds and secret sex tapes and somebody's bringing out the gimp." What? Wait, is that the joke that they're offended by?
Duh.
That's a pretty... just a joke. Well, they're offended by the word gimp.
Duh.
After being outed, he turned in his resignation to his employer, Obsidian Entertainment, and apologised for his comments critical of Islam. GamerGhazi members who first called on Obsidian to fire Hollingshead expressed joy at him losing his job. Wow, you're really nice people. Obsidian Entertainment, if you get whoever, the secretary at Obsidian Entertainment, "Hello, Obsidian Entertainment, how may I help you?"
Hi, your writer is very misogynistic and sexist and racist and lots of other stuff. He's offensive because he wrote some jokes and his own opinions, even though he didn't write his actual name as his username in the Reddit or wherever. But yeah, you should fire him because he should totes not work for your company. Yeah.
Thank you for your call. It's very important to us. Now fuck off. That's what they should have done. That's what Obsidian Entertainment should have done. Fuck off. One user wrote, "I guess that good can sometimes win after all, even in real life and in Game of Thrones." At least they're not using a Harry Potter reference. They can't help but do that, can they? But I mean, Obsidian Entertainment, this is not the first time that they've become on the receiving end of the wrath and ire of the social justice community. I mean, there was that whole back on the first one when there was the trans joke. I mean, I was trying to seek out this tweet that someone, or a series of tweets that someone made when they were offended by this transphobic joke. Yeah, transphobic joke in Pillars of Eternity. She's saying, "Hey, at Obsidian, you should have said no to this backer. Trans misogyny is not acceptable in 2015. Back then that would have been, current year. No, that was 2015 back then when that happened. I mean, here's the financial backers of Pillars of Eternity receive a tombstone where they can write whatever they want. This one tombstone in particular was deemed to be extremely offensive to the transgender community. In the passage, a fictional man named Firedawn Lightbringer ran off a cliff because he discovered that the fictional woman he slept with is actually a man. He's so embarrassed that he decided to kill himself out of shame." And here's what was on the tombstone. "Firedawn Lightbringer, here lies Firedawn, a hero in bed. He once was alive, and now he's dead. The last woman he bedded turned out a man, and crying in shame, off a cliff he ran." I mean, so I was looking for this tweet of this person that complained, because I remember back then when in this article on Reaxxion, God, it's a shame they closed because they were a really cool site, Reaxxion. Is the joke that offensive? I don't understand what part of this is supposed to be so terrible. Are SJWs up in arms over this tombstone because they believe that Firedawn shouldn't kill himself for sleeping with a trans woman? It seems as though that Pillars of Eternity is set in a sort of fictional fantasy medieval land where, you know, even historically back in those days, whole sexuality wasn't fully understood back then. So that would go off into fiction as well. Like, art reflecting reality. Like, I don't get why these SJWs think that just because, I've said this numerous times in other videos, just because a developer is exploring a theme doesn't mean that they endorse that said theme. I mean, hell, here's even a fucking tweet. Here's a tweet from the CEO of Obsidian Entertainment, Fergus Urquhart, talking to Polygon on the Pillars of Eternity backers' hateful joke. And he says, "We can talk about hate and we can explore hate, but that we don't promote hate is the key thing in the end." Exactly. Obsidian Entertainment aren't transphobic. Perhaps the world in Pillars of Eternity, in the fictional world of Pillars of Eternity, perhaps people in that world, in that universe, are transphobic. These social justice warriors not fucking understand that concept. It's fictional, it's not fucking real. So the poem was pulled. Well, it was the whole thing with the Oppression Olympics 2015 back then, yeah. Liz Finnegan explains it best on her blog on extreme political correctness. Offence is taken, not given. Offence is a feeling, and all human beings feel differently about different things. This is the result of any combination of things, including upbringing, past experiences, education, etc. The point is, what offends me may not offend you, and vice versa. People handle offence in one of the following two ways. They adjust themselves to the world around them, or they attempt to force the world to adjust to them and their feelings. Anything can offend anyone. Removing all potentially offensive material or speech from the world would leave us all as shells, hollow husks. Don't act as if you're entitled to have your feelings be given more consideration than anyone else's. Exactly. You should not be given any fucking priority. God. I mean, people got... someone said in a tweet a while back, I saw this interaction, it was really funny. They said, these people, these outrage warriors... will politicise anything. He goes, you know, oh, it wouldn't surprise me if someone would politicise Dance Dance Revolution. And then the person responding was like, well, not necessarily, but you know, Dance Dance Revolution, I suppose, is quite exclusionary to disabled people. And the other guy then went, see what I mean? Dance Dance Revolution is ableist.
Is a fucking bonus point multiplier.
And in this Reaxxion article back then, it said, will Obsidian give in to SJW by removing the Firedawn tombstone? The battle is still ongoing. Many prominent gaming figures have argued in favour of keeping it in the game. Oh, this is especially relevant, especially now, especially like my recap video that I did. People arguing in favour of keeping the joke in the game. Hashtag Shut the Fuck Up Total Biscuit was created by SJWs because they disagreed with his position on the issue. Oh, why engage in a civilised debate when you can simply tell someone to shut the fuck up? And here's Total Biscuit's tweet. I support Obsidian's right to make a joke at anyone's expense, especially fictional characters. This was March 29th, 2015. Here we go, like this.
The trans misogynistic joke is deleted from Pillars of Eternity now. Thank you at Obsidian, at Jess Sawyer for listening to us.
And like there's this whole thread of this woman's tweets going, rumour has it the trans misogynistic joke is removed from Pillars of Eternity with today's patch, confirming for myself. This was, yeah, April 2015. Account is locked. Retweet this if you'd like. Ah, I did it. I spoke up and I made change. I changed things. I did a good thing. I'm a good person. Yay! Really? You think you're a good person? It wouldn't surprise me if this person would come back to the second one like, oh my god. It's probably the same person that sought Casey Hollingshead out on his seeking him out and found and cataloguing that. It would be an interesting turn of events that this person is obsessed with Obsidian Entertainment and all the people that work there.
You've said a wrong thing.
At TransGamerThink. The joke is gone. There is a new memorial in its place in a different location. If you look at the dev notice, it was moved as a side effect of changing it, apparently. Here's a look at the relocated and edited text, which appears to be referencing the controversy. I remember this. And so the new tombstone says, "Here lies Firedawn, a bard, a poet. He was also a card, but most didn't know it. A poem he wrote, in jest was misread. They asked for blood, so now he's just dead." And kudos to Obsidian Entertainment for coming up with that. If that was Obsidian, or if that was the backer that came up with that. If they came up with that they still, people are still not happy about that. It goes, oh well, that's not really great either, but if you're okay with it. And then that same person that was the whole thread going, it's not great, but a dig at me is not going to retransmit trans-misogyny in our culture, so I'll leave it. Oh, so she wanted to go on a further witch hunt. One more thing, #GamerGate kept saying I was just an SJW who'd never played the game and was just looking for things to complain about. Well, you are looking for things to complain about, you did. And like I said previously, exploring themes doesn't mean that you are endorsing those themes.
#GamerGate, you're wrong. I've played all the Infinity Engine games to competition. I have a Steam library of hundreds of games. I've been playing video games for 20 years. I spoke up because seeing hate against you in a game you enjoy hurts.
It wasn't aimed at you. Not all trans people agree with you. Absolutely insane. It's so fucking stupid. If a character, say in Wolfenstein, goes, fuck you white man, to the character that I'm playing as, I'm like, right, okay, you hate white men? That's the character. I'm not going to say, these developers are endorsing hatred and racism of white people. No. I put 18 hours into Pillars of Eternity before I stopped when I saw that joke. That joke stopped me from playing.
Dead on its tracks.
But now with it gone, I have a week's worth of play to catch up.
And I'm going to recommend Pillars of Eternity to all my friends, GamerGate. That's a great game made by people who care about me.
Player patting yourself on the back, because I really didn't want to. I had to find that thread of tweets. I had to go on the Mary Sue. I feel dirty clicking on their article. In a statement posted this afternoon and later emailed to us, Obsidian explained, "It's come to our attention that a piece of backer created content has made it into Pillars of Eternity that was not vetted. Once it was brought to our attention, it followed the same vetting process as all the other content. Prior to release, we worked with many of our backers to iterate on content they asked to be put into the game that didn't strike the right tone." Got the hiccups. In the case of this specific content, we checked with the backer who wrote it and asked them about changing it. We respect our backers greatly and felt it was our duty to include them in the process. They gave us new content which we have used to replace what is in the game. To be clear, we followed the process we would have followed had this content been vetted prior to the release of the product. We appreciate the faith you have in all given us into making Pillars of Eternity the great game it's become, and we appreciate the strength of conviction all of you bring to every conversation we have together. The Witcher series explores racism. The elves are exposed to racism. How many people were triggered by that and didn't continue, and that stopped them playing The Witcher? Like I said, CD Projekt Red, they're exploring themes of racism in their game. They're not endorsing racism, though. I mean, even back then, like Mark Kern, Grums, the old developer who worked at Blizzard, he had a massive thread of tweets aimed at Obsidian. And he's saying, and it says that lying, conflating, exaggerating, attempting to harm people is acceptable as civil protest, which it is not. It gives into the hysteria that a joke is hate speech when it is clearly not. It says we are okay with people libelling Total Biscuit and falsely accusing him of supporting trans murder. The implication is that we will take seriously the complaint of hateful persons who want to #kill all men without irony. Based on the new low bar set by Obsidian standard, we can take any game and find something to manufacture faux outrage. Obsidian have made it much harder for me to make games, and the same goes to any other developer, indie developer, or developers that have conservative opinions or viewpoints that work in other AAA studios. I mean, we've seen BioWare Montreal, how toxic and sexist and racist that environment is, with someone like Manveer Hare working there. So Mark Cohen continues, it's not okay to make a change because of lies and threats. That just leads to worse lies and worse threats against developers. When someone threatens you and you change it, then it is a problem. This was not just a civil protest. This emboldens threat. Nobody is threatening you for buying the game, so you feel fine. But developers are being threatened with lifelong ruin for making any slip. It's not the act of protest, it's the level of threats made for a joke that wasn't even what they said it was. That's what is chilling. They take an inch, you give them an inch, they take a mile, and then they take the rest of the fucking highway with them and demand you pay for extensions on the highway. It is the tactic. It's the tactics. It's saying it's okay to accuse people of false, horrible things, to get a developer to change something, or try to get them fired. This is not something to cheer. Sorry guys, it's a sensitive issue for me as a creator, and probably not the best time for me to discuss it. So you can see that you give them an inch, they take a mile. It's a shame on Obsidian for listening to these people. So yeah, in closing, I'm going to close this video up. Obsidian, stop listening to these people. I mean, even back on your transphobic joke back then, back in 2015, stop listening to these people. And fuck you, GamerGhazi, for someone that, a developer that used a anonymous name rather than his, like I said earlier. So fuck you, GamerGhazi. Casey Hollingshead, I wish you the best for the future. It's a shame that you resigned from Obsidian Entertainment, because I'm sure I've not played the first Pillars of Eternity, but I'll make sure that I'll play it and also play this second one as well. I hope that they've kept in the content that you contributed to the team. I wish you all the best for the future as well. Yeah, it's quite interesting looking back at that old tweet from Total Biscuit saying that he supports jokes, supports Obsidian's right to make a joke at anyone's expense, especially fictional characters. I don't know why he still hasn't kept that line of thought. So yeah, that's really pissed me off, and I'm sure it'll piss you off too. So I'm Flattmeister. Leave a comment and in the video, tell me what you guys think of the whole outrage. Don't forget to subscribe, and like Captain Cummings says, rock that bell like the Wu-Tang Clan. So yeah, I'm Flattmeister. I'll see you in the next video. See ya.